This is your weekly report on corruption in the Philippine government. A Philippine National Police Academy officer faces dismissal over the alleged sexual harassment of a cadet, according to the National Police Commission. The officer, a police major, allegedly intoxicated the cadet, undressed him, and performed oral sex on him at the PNPA camp in Silang, Cavite, on the 31st of July, according to police. In an interview with reporters at his office in Quezon City on Thursday, Napolcom Vice Chairperson and Executive Officer Rafael Calinazan said he had ordered the agency's inspection, monitoring, and investigation service to conduct a motu proprio investigation into the case. If this is proven true, it's clearly dismissal from the service. There's no bargaining there, Calinazan said. Earlier, Silang Police Chief Lieutenant Colonel Louis Gonzaga told Inquirer.net that the police major was already charged with acts of lasciviousness before the Municipal Circuit Trial Court. Inquirer.net sought comments from the PNPA and the PNP but has yet to get a response. A 31-year-old barangay councillor and her 60-year-old mother-in-law were arrested in a buy-bust operation in Sitio San Roque, Purok 5, Barangay Gagato, Hinigaran, Negros Occidental on Wednesday, the 6th of August. Police identified the suspects as barangay official Pam and her mother-in-law Grace. The Negros Occidental Police Provincial Office said the suspects were nabbed after they sold suspected shabu to a poser buyer from the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency. Recovered from the suspects were suspected shabu weighing 10 grams valued at 68,000 pesos, 13,000 pesos in marked money, a lighter, an improvised straw scooper, and 3 cell phones. Police Lieutenant Colonel Jome Malong, spokesperson of the Police Regional Office Negros Island Region, said that Pam was tagged as a high-value target in the illegal drugs trade. Pam's husband was also arrested by PDEA for a drug offense on the 20th of May 24 in Hinigaran and is still detained at the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. Malong said the operation against the barangay official was based on the joint intelligence monitoring of PDEA and police after her alleged illegal drug activities were discovered. It was the suspect's first apprehension for drug pushing. 4 police officers, including the police chief, in Balasan, a town in northern Iloilo province, were sacked after a prisoner escaped. Police Captain Renzo Martinez and 3 other policemen were relieved of their posts on Thursday, the 7th of August. Suspect Jason Navales was on board a police patrol car when he escaped. Handling the carnapping suspect were Police Corporal Victorino Bundak, Police Staff Sergeant Russell Lumoag, and Corporal John Crisostomo. Police Regional Office 6 Chief Police Brigadier General Josefino Ligon ordered their relief pending investigation. We uphold the highest standards of professionalism and accountability. Any act of negligence or lapse in protocol will be dealt with accordingly, said the PRO6 in a statement. The Iloilo Police Provincial Office under Police Colonel Bayani Razalan has created a fact-finding team to determine the circumstances that led to the suspect's escape while also finding out the accountability of the policemen involved. Navales remains at large. He has a 100,000 pesos reward for his recapture. We assure the public that all necessary efforts are being exerted to recapture the escapee and to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future, PRO6 added. Ibajay Town, Aklan Vice Mayor Julio Estrelazo was shot dead by a Sangguniang Bayan member on Friday morning, according to the Police Regional Office Western Visayas. The incident transpired at the SB office in Barangay Poblacion at around 9:15 am. PRO6 identified the suspect as SB member Myral Senatin. According to initial reports, the suspect entered the SB office to request a copy of local ordinances passed during his term, the Western Visayas police explained. He then allegedly approached Vice Mayor Estrelazo and asked, "What wrong have I done to you?" before drawing a firearm and shooting the victim without further provocation. It added, Estrelazo sustained a gunshot wound on the left side of his chest, according to police. The Ibajay vice mayor was rushed to the district hospital for treatment but was pronounced dead by the attending physician, the Aklan Provincial Police Office said in a separate message to reporters. Meanwhile, Senatin was taken into the custody of the municipal police, PRO6 added. A village chairperson in Samar, wanted for murder and frustrated murder, was arrested by agents of the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, ending nearly 9 years of hiding. CIDG Chief Brigadier General Christopher Abrahano on Friday identified the suspect as Antonio, the incumbent chair of Barangay Sero in Motion Town according to a news release. Antonio was arrested on the 3rd of August based on warrants issued in 2016 by the Regional Trial Court Branch 29 in Catbalogan City. The case stemmed from a 2015 armed encounter in Barangay Concepcion, Paranas, where Antonio and 14 suspected members of the communist group ambushed government troops using high-powered firearms. The attack resulted in the death of 2 soldiers and serious injuries to 2 more. The Office of the Ombudsman has ordered Mayor Ella Celestina Garcia, Yulo of Moises Padilla Town in Negros Occidental and 2 other municipal officials to pay a fine equivalent to 6 months of their salaries for the delay in issuance of a business permit to a funeral parlor. Yulo, Archie Montalbano and Warren Jackson were found guilty of violating Section 21(e) of Republic Act No. 11032, which amended Republic Act No. 9485, also known as the Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act. Montalbano is Moises Padilla's civil registrar, administrator designate and human resource management officer designate. Jackson is the officer in charge of the business permit licensing office of the municipality. The suspension was based on the recommendation of Graft Investigation and Prosecution Officer 2 Abigail Marie Cinco, who, in a decision dated the 20th of February, but released to the media on the 7th of August, sought the imposition of a fine payable to the Office of the Ombudsman. The fine may be deducted from the respondent's retirement benefits, accrued leave credits or any other receivable from their office. Garcia Yulo said she could not discuss the case at this time but said they would file a motion for reconsideration. This is one of the challenges we face in public service. We cannot please everybody, and there may indeed be complaints, but this will not weaken our commitment to serving for the good of the many, Garcia Yulo said. The complainant, Ramona Nalagan Villaflor, filed a complaint against the 3 on the 11th of September, 2023, for grave abuse of authority and neglect of duty due to the unreasonable delay or failure to act on her application for a business permit. The complainant is the owner of the Los Agustin Nalagan Memorial Homes in Moises Padilla. Villaflor said that in 2022, she secured a mayor's permit and business license from the municipal government after complying with all the requirements. At that time, she claimed, her relative was still a political ally of Garcia Yulo. In the 20th of January 23, Villaflor said she applied for the renewal of her business permit after complying with all the requirements. The application, however, was not acted upon for more than 4 months, she said. Her application for the renewal of the business permit was ultimately denied in the 26th of June, 2023, notice of denied business permit, the complainant said. While the complaint involved alleged grave abuse of authority and neglect of duty, the Office of the Ombudsman found the respondents guilty of violating the Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act for failing to render government services within the prescribed processing time on any application or request without due cause. Authorities are searching for former General Luna, Quezon Mayor Mato in Florido in connection with an illegal recruitment case. The Regional Trial Court Branch 96 in Catalonia has issued a warrant of arrest against Florido and his secretary, Joma Cristina Briones, for large-scale illegal recruitment, a non-bailable offense. Briones has already surrendered and has been arraigned. The case began after 14 alleged victims filed complaints against Florido, claiming he promised them jobs in South Korea as seasonal farm workers. In an interview with DZMM, attorney Catherine Avino, legal counsel for the victims, said Florido allegedly began recruiting in 2021 while serving as mayor of General Luna. The recruitment was reportedly presented as a local government program led by Florido to send seasonal farm workers to South Korea. Florido also introduced a Korean national as a partner in the program. A municipal resolution was passed granting Mayor Florido permission to send seasonal farm workers to a certain town in South Korea. The area named in the resolution is different from where the seasonal farm workers were to be sent, said attorney Navino. Navino added that Florido also had no authorization from the Department of Migrant Workers to recruit workers for South Korea. We tried to get certification from the Department of Migrant Workers if ex-Mayor Florido was indeed authorized to recruit. He was not authorized, Navino said. Although the victims had submitted the required documents and attended orientations, they were still unable to leave for South Korea, reportedly for failing to meet qualifications. The lawyer added the workers were told their expenses towards deployment would be reimbursed but that Florido did not give any details on how that would be done. ABS-CBN News tried to reach Florido for comment, but he could not be contacted by phone and did not respond to messages on Messenger. Florido ran for congressman of Quezon Province's 3rd district in the 20th of May 25 elections but was disqualified by the Commission on Elections over a vote-buying case. Albay Governor Noel Rosal has ordered an investigation into possible corruption in the province's quarry operations following the arrest of a former municipal councillor of Tiwi, Albay in an alleged payola scheme. The suspect was apprehended on Friday afternoon in Barangay Miisi, Deriga, Albay during an entrapment operation by the National Bureau of Investigation Legazpi and NBI Naga district offices. Authorities said the suspect was arrested following a complaint from quarry operator who alleged that the suspect demanded 320,000 pesos in exchange for continued quarry operations. Rosal thanked the NBI for its swift action and assured full cooperation from the provincial government in the investigation. While his guilt is yet to be determined, let this serve as a warning. This administration is serious in fixing the flaws in the system of quarrying in Albay, Rosal said. The governor said the LGU-level probe will look into the alleged existence of a payola system and seek to identify other personalities who may be involved. ACO Bicol Party List Rep Alfredo Garbin Jr. said in a recent media interview that some individuals have been demanding money from quarry operators. He claimed that the unofficial charge went up from 12% to as much as 25% per cubic meter of extracted material. Authorities have yet to file formal charges against the suspect, but Rosal's announcement signals a broader crackdown on corruption in Albay's quarry industry. A fire inspector who was previously arrested by National Bureau of Investigation agents for attempting to extort 400,000 pesos from a job applicant has been found guilty by the Ombudsman, the Bureau said Tuesday. In a statement, the NBI said the Office of the Ombudsman found the fire inspector administratively liable for violating the Republic Act 6713 and grave misconduct. He was dismissed from service with perpetual disqualification from holding office, forfeiture of retirement benefits, cancellation of his civil service eligibility, and is prohibited from the civil service exam. The NBI arrested the man during an entrapment operation on the 27th of June. According to the Bureau, the arrest stemmed from the complaint of an applicant that the fire inspector asked Thanksgiving money from her in the amount of 400,000 pesos in exchange for her inclusion in the final roster of candidates for the position of Fire Safety Officer 1. She said fulfilled all necessary requirements and was fully qualified for the position, but was allegedly denied the position due to the lack of a backer. Criminal complaints have been filed against Department of Health Secretary Teodoro J. Herbosa on the reported 1.29 billion pesos alleged unliquidated funds transferred in 2024 to UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, for the purchase of life-saving vaccines and essential drugs. The complaints were filed by concerned DOH employees in a letter received last the 11th of August by Office of the Ombudsman Officer in Charge Merifla Punzalan Castillo. The concerned DOH employees said they submitted the complaints anonymously out of concern for retaliation, but with a firm sense of duty to uphold the public trust. The letter stated that despite the advance of the still unliquidated funds, Secretary Herbosa reportedly initiated a new procurement request to purchase vaccines from UNICEF for an additional 524,926,193 pesos. Herbosa was charged with violations of Section 3G of Republic Act No. 3019, the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, Article 171D of the Revised Penal Code of Malversation of Public Funds through Falsification of Public Documents, and RA 6713, the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees. Secretary Herbosa could not be contacted immediately for comment as of posting time. Manila Bulletin will come out with his comment once it is filed with the OMB, the complaint stated. It bears stressing that the items under the subsidiary ledger of UNICEF were mostly received and or delivered in February, March, and the 20th of June 24. As such, under government accounting rules, the liquidation of these advances becomes due and demandable. As of the 30th of July, 2024, the subject's cash advances remained unliquidated. It was also alleged that Herbosa allowed the liquidation deadline to lapse without rendering any settlement of accounts. Worse, instead of fulfilling this duty, Secretary Herbosa sought to procure additional vaccines using more public funds, without accounting for the first 1.29 billion pesos. It was also alleged. The complaints also allege that the cash advances were erroneously declared as advances to contractors since UNICEF is not a contractor but a third-party international organization. It was alleged that Hebosa did not make a mere clerical error in misrepresenting the cash advances, but deliberately misclassifying it to mislead auditors and other regulatory bodies. At the same time, the complaints accused Hebosa of excessive and inordinate delays in resolving protests, resulting in several delays of vaccines and medicines, and protests were left to languish for up to 245 days without resolution. While some protests were resolved, many others were indefinitely stalled. The complaints also stated, citing a Commission on Audit Observation memorandum, the complaints stated that there were protests involving 1.2 billion pesos worth of pneumococcal and polio vaccines which remained unresolved as of the 11th of June, 2025. On the other hand, it was alleged that the protests by a certain firm were immediately resolved. The complaints alleged these patterns raise legitimate and serious concerns that Secretary Hebosa's conduct either favored certain bidders or punished others in a manner grossly detrimental to fair competition and public welfare. His omissions, when viewed in context, amount not only to gross negligence but to a calculated disregard for legal obligations to the detriment of public interest and fair procurement. The DOH concerned employees told the OMB that the DOH exists to serve the Filipino people, not to protect the interests of a few. They stressed, the people deserve nothing less than the full, unvarnished truth dragged into the light, no matter how fiercely it is buried beneath layers of concealment and official pretense. A police officer from the Guindleman Municipal Police Station in Bohol Province is facing serious charges after an American national reported that the officer allegedly threatened him in front of his wife who was holding their 5-month-old son and shouted at him outside the town market on Monday afternoon, the 11th of August, 2025. The officer has been identified as Police Corporal Marcelo Oliva, also known as Siloy, who was reportedly intoxicated during the incident. In a Facebook post by Kenny Foster, the American national, he stated that while he was outside the market, the officer ordered him to pull over. However, as he was about to comply, the officer allegedly pushed him and immediately grabbed his firearm. The officer then continued shouting, turning around, and taunting them with hand gestures. Witnesses at the market feared that the situation might escalate into a shooting. Still not satisfied, Oliver allegedly kicked Foster's motorcycle and attempted to harm his wife, who was holding their child. He then asked her what her nationality was. Foster tried to protect his wife, but Oliver allegedly punched him in the side, causing injuries to his ribs. Foster called the 911 hotline, and a few minutes later, police officers from Guindleman arrived. However, the responding officers reportedly told them to go home and take a different route. I called 911 and a couple of cops came over, removed him from the situation, let us go to the police station outpost while on the phone, and when he was still screaming F you, throwing fingers in my face, he punched me in the ribcage and pushed me a few times, Foster wrote. Foster has filed a formal complaint at the Guindleman Municipal Police Station against Police Corporal Marcelo Oliva. Police Lieutenant Colonel Norman Ways, spokesperson for the Bohol Police Provincial Office, said they have instructed the chief of Guindleman to obtain an affidavit from the foreigner to proceed with criminal and administrative charges. I also called the attention of the investigator. This morning, the American reportedly went to the Guindleman police station. I spoke with the chief so they can formally obtain a statement from the foreigner who complained about a police officer who, in my view, made threats, and that report will serve as the basis for our investigator so the officer can respond to the complaint, Ways said. In addition, the Provincial Investigation and Detective Management Unit of the Bohol Police Provincial Office will conduct a separate investigation. Ways admitted that this is not the first complaint against Corporal Oliver. In 2020, when retired Police Brigadier General Jonathan Cabal was still the provincial police chief, Oliver was also charged for firing his weapon while intoxicated. As a result, he faced administrative charges and was suspended and demoted from Police Master Sergeant to Corporal. Ways noted that Oliver is generally a good officer, but his behavior drastically changes when he is drunk, often resulting in him drawing and firing his weapon. While the investigation is ongoing, Oliver's issued firearms, both long and short, have been confiscated, and he may be placed under camp restriction. We have disarmed him of both his long and short firearms, and there's a strong chance he'll be transferred to Camp Daguhoy and placed under restriction, especially since this is his second offense, Ways said. The Provincial Internal Affairs Service will also conduct a separate investigation into Oliver's administrative case. Police and soldiers here have launched a manhunt against two men who shot and seriously injured a school principal here at 7 am Tuesday. Police identified the victim as Alan Alsabar, principal of the Agriculture Elementary School in Barangay Agriculture. Osaba was driving her sports utility vehicle and was about to enter the school grounds when two men on a motorcycle arrived. The backrider pulled a gun and shot the school head multiple times before they quickly fled. Responding traffic officers and barangay peacekeeping action team members quickly took her to the hospital on a tricycle. The Midsayap Municipal Police Station has yet to issue an official statement. Midsayap Mayor Rolly Sacbalin condemned the attack against Osaba and directed the police to identify, arrest and prosecute the perpetrators. Osaba is new to the Agriculture Elementary School, having been transferred from Salunayan Elementary School, also in Midsayap, as part of the Department of Education's reshuffling of school heads. The Sandigan Bayan has affirmed its decision that upheld the conviction of a former official of the Land Transportation Office in Region 10 based in Cagayan de Oro City for malversation of public property. Former Law Enforcement Acting Chief Andrew E. Tupac Jr. was convicted by the Regional Trial Court for not returning a Sony Cybershot camera, one of the equipment used in LTO's law enforcement operations from 2006 to 2012. The RTC's decision was upheld by the Sandigan Bayan in its 18th of March, 2025 decision. Tupac filed a motion for reconsideration. In 2014, the Office of the Ombudsman charged Tupac with violation of Article 217 of the Revised Penal Code on malversation of public property. After trial, the RTC convicted Tupac on the 13th of March, 2029 and sentenced him to a prison term ranging from 4 months and 1 day to 4 years, 2 months and 1 day. He was ordered to pay a fine of 15,043 pesos and return the same amount to the LTO representing the purchase price of the camera. He was also banned permanently from holding public office. When his motion for reconsideration was denied by the RTC, Tupac appealed before the Sandigan Bayan which affirmed his conviction. In a resolution, issued last the 4th of August, the Anti-Graft Court affirmed its 18th of March decision. It said that Tupac's arguments were unmeritorious since the issues raised have already been considered and passed upon by the court in its decision. It reiterated that Tupac failed to prove that he returned the Sony Cybershot camera as there was no document presented that proved its return. In sum, the court finds that the prosecution was able to establish all the elements of malversation beyond reasonable doubt. The conviction of Tupac is sustained, the resolution stated. The 6-page resolution was written by 3rd Division Chairperson Associate Justice Colby Miranda with the concurrence of Associate Justices Ronald B. Moreno and Kevin Nas B. Vivero. The National Bureau of Investigation has filed a murder complaint against police officers accused of alleged involvement in the shooting of a member of the Bugkalat Ilongot indigenous cultural community in Nagtapunan, Quirino. The Bureau said Wednesday. In a statement, the NBI said that the murder complaint was filed against 7 police officers with the Office of the Provincial Prosecutor of Quirino on the 5th of August over the shooting of Jim White. The NBI said that White previously reached a tribal-mediated amicable settlement in his pending criminal cases. However, according to the Bureau, investigation showed that the cops allegedly staged an ambush-style operation a day before the surrender, resulting in White's death. Further, the NBI said that all bullet entry wounds were on his back. It added that this indicated that he was shot while defenseless, contradicting claims that he fired first. The NBI also conducted an on-site investigation in the far-flung mountainous area where the crime occurred and concluded that the killing was executed with treachery, the NBI said. The Sandigan Bayan has convicted a former Quezon City councillor in connection with ghost employees supposedly hired as field and area coordinators and street sweepers from 2009 to 2010. In a 67-page decision dated the 12th of August, 2025, the Sandigan Bayan's 5th Division sentenced Dante de Guzman to up to 10 years for each of 16 counts of malversation and up to 8 years for 16 counts of violation of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. Although the prosecution was able to present only 6 individuals who testified to their non-involvement in the position under which they were officially designated, the evidence reveals a payroll scheme that was both systematic and well coordinated, the court noted. This raises the strong probability that other ghost employees, beyond those identified in these cases, may have likewise been listed as payees despite rendering no actual service under their purported designations. In the same vein, it is not remote that similar schemes may have been perpetrated by other officials in other offices, it said. The court also ordered de Guzman's perpetual disqualification from public office, forfeiture of his retirement or gratuity benefits under any law, and to indemnify the Quezon City government 361,500 pesos in civil liability. Last year he was sentenced to up to 32 years in prison for projects that, on paper, supposedly provided free raincoats, tents, sports equipment and other items for his constituents 16 years ago. That's all for this week. I'll see you next Friday with more stories of corruption and foolishness within the Philippine government.